Motorsport is back, and Britcar is back. Round 1 of the 2020 Dunlop Endurance Championship took us to Croft in North Yorkshire, with a terrific array of sports prototypes, GTs and production touring cars in action. Due to the worldwide pandemic, it's been a long 8 months since the final round of the 2019 championship. So, how does it feel to finally be able to come racing again?
Wonderful. After so long away, all enforced and nothing we can do about it. Yeah, just absolutely great to be back on track. So, first time back on track for me in almost a year or 9 months at least. And yeah, it's just great to be back and a bit of a shock to the system almost. That this is what a racing car's like again.
After co-piloting the Brabham BT62 to overall victory on its race debut in the final round of 2019, Will Powell is back for a full campaign.
I love the paddock and the other competitors who welcomed us with open arms in the Brabham BT62 with David. And I thought, what can we do for 2020? Obviously everyone's plans have changed a bit with COVID, but I've got my co-driver Dave Scaramanga who's come to us and happy to do a full season in the Ginetta, so we're moving down a few classes and just going to enjoy some GT racing all year, I hope, now we get going again.
Teammate Dave Scaramanga is new to endurance racing.
First time for me at all of the circuits and first time in the car and any type of GT racing. Previously I've done a few seasons of saloon car racing at Castle Combe. It's quite a popular championship there, which I've had varying successes in, so yeah, looking forward to this.
New for 2020 is the Britcar Trophy, designed to allow pretty much any type of car that fits into classes 5, 6 and 7 to compete for separate points and the trophy title. Anthony Hutchins is one of the drivers switching from sprint races to endurance in his Porsche Boxster.
We were racing in a single category class last year, and that's good. And I did 5 years in Mazdas before that, and they're great and they're great places to learn. But it's really putting yourselves up against other drivers and other cars. I think it's the way to go, and especially endurance. Our race is great, I think.
With its mix of incredibly fast sections and tight, narrow complexes, Croft provides a real test of precision and bravery. VR Motorsport driver Jack Fabi talks us around a flying lap in his Praga R1T.
We normally come down the straight, probably hit around about 145 mile an hour. We go from 6th gear down to 3rd, braking about the 125 metre board, and then we're straight into the tight complex of the 2nd and 3rd corner. It can be difficult through there in any car because the way the corner's set up, you carry a lot of speed into it and the car wants to wash away. And we're flat for the chicane, grabbing 4th just before we hit the chicane, and we a nice long run down towards the tower. 6th gear, and then we're braking down to 3rd gear. There's a little bump just before it, so you don't want to brake on that bump, you want to brake just after it. Stay away from the apex about 1.5 foot because there's another bump there that in a prototype car can unsettle you quite a lot, so you can take a bit of a sacrifice there, knowing that you could lose more if you hit the bump too hard. From Tower Bend all the way down to the bottom of Barncroft, we're flat out, so we're about 145 mile an hour through Barncroft. And that is testing a bit, you have to kind of put the left foot over the right foot and hold the throttle down a bit. You can scare yourself pretty easily. And then down to Sunny Inn, from 6th gear down to 3rd gear, really important braking point because like I say, you're going so fast and you really want to make sure you carry all the minimum corner speed through that section. 3rd gear through Sunny Out, get on the power as soon as we can, and we've got a little short run towards the complex section, so we'll probably get up to about 5th just before we get there, and then back down to 3rd. And the complex section you'd think in our car we'd struggle with, but we don't because it's so small and nimble, and like I say, it's carbon fibre so it's stiff, that we can just throw the car in and it'll stick. So with 3rd gear around the left hander, 2nd gear into the right, and then we fire the car past the apex of the hairpin and come back because we've got so much power, is get on the power as soon as we can, straighten the car up and get the car down the straight. You can lose quite a bit of time there if you get it wrong, and that's basically a lap of Croft.
The first competitive action of the season got underway with qualifying for the first of the weekend's 2 races. Making his Britcar debut, Danny Harrison claimed an impressive pole position in his Praga R1T, just shy of 0.3 of a second quicker than the sister car of Jack Fabi and Gary Townsend, who were also on debut. Third overall and quickest Class 2 car was the Raw Motorsport Radical of Ben Dimmock and Steve Burgess, despite this spin. Lining up fourth, reigning Dunlop Endurance Champion Paul Bailey, partnered this weekend by 2017 champion Ross Wiley aboard the SB Race Engineering Ferrari. And an impressive debut from Sean Doyle and Nicole Trout. Their Beluga Racing Porsche was the fastest Class 4 car, 7th overall. Meanwhile, Barry McMahon posted the fastest lap in the trophy category aboard his Alpha 156.
Took me about 6 or 7 laps to get used to the grip levels, and then got a lovely tow from one of the M3s down the back straight, which sort of dragged me along nicely. So yeah, very, very happy, thank you. Now that we've got our own separate category with Class 5, 6 and 7, I would say the time difference between those is no more than about 6 or 7 seconds. So ultimately, obviously being nice in Class 5, hopefully being one of the front runners.
There was drama before the race even began as pole sitter Harrison had to be pushed off the grid. A fuel pump issue sending the Praga back to the pits. That effectively put teammate Fabi in prime position to grab the race lead off the rolling start. And this he duly did. The blue Praga beating the black Radical of Steve Burgess into turn 1, followed by the Ferrari of Bailey and the white Porsche of Marcus Fothergill, who had shifted from 9th to 4th. And a tight battle for 5th place was won by former champion Martin Byford, who sliced past the yellow Tyrannus of Ben Sharich in his BPM Motorsport Seat, while Chris Hart's Ginetta stole a move on the BMW of Nathan Wells into the chicane. By the end of lap 1, Fabi's lead was over 6 seconds. Burgess suffering a massive lockup as he arrived at the complex for the first time, and with both Porsches now ahead of Bailey's Ferrari. Just behind, Nathan Wells was keen to get 8th place back from Chris Hart, and the Digiplat BMW stole the racing line into the left-hander. His next target, Ben Sharich in the Mach G Racing Tyrannus, a race-winning car that has undergone several upgrades to brakes and power steering during the lockdown. Wells was later on the brakes into the hairpin though and drew alongside the Tyrannus through the apex. Alas, the Tyrannus got better traction out of the corner and powered back ahead as they charged onto the straight. Fabi was looking strong, the number 84 Praga having claimed the Class 1 title for VR Motorsport in last year's championship. Back to the battle for 7th, and through the twisty bits, Wells was all over the back of Sharich, making the decisive move on the exit to Hawthorne. But everyone's pace was about to be slowed as the safety car was deployed. A broken drive shaft had left race leader Fabi stranded at the back of the circuit. Having moved up to 3rd in the trophy category, this phase of the race also saw Oliver Smith headed back to the pits with an issue. Once the race was back up to speed, Steve Burgess made the most of his new lead, quickly pulling away from what was becoming a terrific battle for 2nd place between the Porsches of Doyle and Fothergill. And Bailey's 5th place Ferrari was being hounded by the ever-impressive Byford aboard the EDF Motorsport prepared Seat. Meanwhile, Jasper Sapra had charged from the back of the field to move ahead of Barry McMahon's Alpha for the trophy class lead in his Simon Green Motorsport BMW. Also on a mission, Warren McKinley in the 3rd of the VR Motorsport Pragas. Having had to start from the pit lane, he was now screaming his way through the pack. That left Anthony Hutchins to go to battle with the S2 Smart's Smart 4.4 of Jonathan Packer, the pair squabbling over 3rd place in the trophy category. And once Fabi had been recovered back to the pits, VR Motorsport did an outstanding job to change his drive shaft in just 2.5 minutes. Also back in the race was Harrison, several laps down but very quickly making up ground to what would eventually be an 8th place finish. Dave Bennett was set to take over the bespoke car's Porsche from Marcus Fothergill, but he never got the chance. Having impressively moved his way up to 4th place, Nathan Wells fancied his chances of a podium, but the move into the complex was ambitious and it didn't pay off, ultimately putting both cars into retirement. That brought about a 2nd safety car period. This one coincided with the pit window, and so most of the field came in for their driver changes at the same time. The narrow pit lane at Croft ensuring that all of the teams had to keep their wits about them. The SB Race Engineering Ferrari 488 would move up to 2nd place in this phase of the race. McMahon's pit stop took longer than he hoped, with some checkups to the Alpha costing him several laps and any chance of a trophy class podium. Sadly, Jasper Sapra had also retired his BMW, and that meant that Jonathan Packer was now leading the category. Not only would he go on to win, but he also put the smart car into the top 10 overall, amidst some real high-performance machinery. Ex-Formula Ford Festival winner Chrissy Palmer was plenty rapid in his Paul Sheard Motorsport MX-5 and went on to finish second in the trophy category, ending the race as the best-placed Class 6 car. Anthony Hutchins' chances of a podium fell away with this spin and a later stop-go penalty. But the Porsche had looked promising up to this point. And so it was Brad Kaler who completed the trophy category podium in his Saxon Motorsport Seat. The other Seat in the race was also headed for the podium, Ash Woodman continuing his teammates' excellent work to take third place overall and a Class 4 victory. It was getting tight at the end though, Martin Compton picking up where Warren McKinley had left off and almost getting the number 86 Praga onto the podium. Still, fourth place, not bad from a pit lane start. Taking the first checkered flag of the season though was Ben Dimmock. An opening day victory for him and teammate Steve Burgess.
I think we had a little bit of a lucky escape because the Pragas both had problems. You know, they were a little bit quicker than us, a fair bit quicker than us in qualifying. And then it was a little bit frustrating with the plugging a gap and then the safety car. But yeah, once we got into a bit of a rhythm, pulled a bit of a gap, but we were nursing a bit of a braking issue. And I don't think when we pitted under the safety car, it gave us a bit more gap. But I think for the second half, Ben just had to sort of nurse it home with a bit of a brake issue.
The car was not handling its best, but my crew kept telling me that what lead we had, and we kept increasing the lead lap by lap. So I just basically was just bringing it home. I just didn't want to do anything silly and, you know, put it in the barrier because it was snatchy. The brakes, we're going to have to do some work on the brakes because they're not working correctly. But apart from that, yeah, what a great start to the season.
With the results setting the grid for race 2 and some fast cars having to start further down the order, a fascinating prospect lay ahead for the next encounter. The story of round 2 of the Dunlop Endurance Championship coming up in our next report. Until then, thanks for watching.